Thank you for viewing this presentation. I will talk today about NAATI certification testing and especially how we handle testing during COVID-19 and which innovations it brought forward for us. So first, I'll start by giving you an overview of the certification system and where we are at now. And then I'll move on to explaining about our new testing platform for translation tests, and then touch on future innovations regarding interpreting tests before a few conclusion remarks. So for those of you who are not familiar with the NAATI certification system, this is the map of our model with the different levels of testing in blue translation and green interpreting. So at the bottom, the first level is recognized practicing. This is when testing is not available in a language and practitioners are able to get some recognitions based on their work practice, training, and meeting prerequisites for ethics and intercultural. When a language is available for testing, then the first level of interpreting will be certified provisional interpreter, and then the next level up certified interpreter, then our specialist test, health and legal, which were a new addition to the certification model compared to how it was before, and then the conference interpreting there. For translation, we're currently only offering certified translator. We're not delivering advanced translator tests at the moment. We will in the future, but not for now. So to this day, we are able to offer the first level of interpreting testing in 37 languages. That includes Deaf and Auslan, but also in 11 indigenous languages. For the certified interpreter, we have it in 16 languages at the moment, certified 30 languages. That's for both directions though. And for the highest level of interpreting, we currently have 6 languages, and that also involves Auslan. So the certification system has been implemented for now 3 years. So we're starting to have a bit more of a mature system. It started in January 2018. And so NAATI now is able to reflect on those first 3 years and find areas where some refinement can be made. So NAATI's just launched a continuous improvement program earlier this year, and it aims is not to review and reinvent the whole system, but it's to refine and make adjustments in some key areas of the system. This program is mainly led internally with the involvement of key external consultants and experts as well. We estimate it will run over about 2 years, and the focus is on 6 focus areas. First one being examiner, oops, sorry. The first one being examiner training and performance, the second one test reliability, the third one test design and assessment rubrics. So I'll just explain for the test reliability, we're planning to conduct a study which will help analyze all the results awarded to this day according to different parameters that will help assess the reliability of the tests. Then the task design and the assessment rubrics, this will involve some working group work with experts to refine some aspects of the test task, for instance, in the rubrics. So it could be from the wording to some slight format changes to improve the tests. We will also look at prerequisites, especially when it comes to training prerequisites. And finally, test delivery and technology. And this is the area I will focus the most on today, as I will tell you more about the innovations we've made and those we are planning to make. So let's start with the certified translation test. That's the first level of testing for the translation stream. So last year, with COVID-19, like every other business, NAATI was impacted, and we had to review the way and reinvent the way we were testing for translation and our other tests as well. So although we had been thinking about an online platform for a while, COVID-19 accelerated the process. We were not at that stage yet, but we were pushed into it. And so we looked at different products and ended up deciding on a a translation testing platform developed by Televic, who's one of the leader in the industry when it comes to training or testing technology in our sector. So there were some key challenges around that, of course. We had to ensure the security of the materials. Moving from an on-site setup to an online setup does involve considerations around security because the candidates are taking the test from their own home. And we also had to make sure the transition was smooth, moving from pen and paper to online does require for the experience to be user friendly and making sure there are not too many technical hitches. We also had to think about the format of the test and making sure the testing platform could accommodate it and not the other way around. And for instance, for the revision task, we had to ensure we could have a comment insertion function uh, in line with what we would normally have in Word. And of course, there were some operational considerations. We had hundreds of candidates who saw the test cancelled, so we have to make sure we could offer them a test as early as possible. And so all this happened between March and September last year, and we had our first test session in September. So we were pretty successful in this implementation. And actually, since September, we have tested 938 candidates in 28 languages. So this was a quick move. It was a successful move. The online testing platform allows us to offer more testing spots as well, so we can have bigger testing sessions in the same day. So here I've put some numbers for you so you have a bit of an idea of the trends, and also you can see the languages we are currently offering. As you can see, the demand is really high for Chinese. That reflects both directions there. But we also have a strong demand in Spanish, Arabic, Korean, Persian, Portuguese, Vietnamese, Japanese, French, and German to a lesser extent. Now in this slide, I will show you how the interface looks like. But before that, I just want to run through a few points here. So as part of the testing experience, we have made some sample materials available in English and accessible on our website through a testing platform environment. So candidates can simulate the experience. So I'll show you that. And then our test format and the duration of the test themselves haven't been affected by the change. So we're still looking at a test with 3 tasks, 2 texts out of 3 translation texts, and 1 revision task that is compulsory. And the test altogether lasts for 3.5 hours. Candidates can sit the test from anywhere in the world. In our first couple of testing sessions, we had about 8% of candidates taking the test from overseas, so which was also a big first for us. Before I show you the platform, I also wanted to talk about the security. I have mentioned that we had to ensure the security of the test materials. And by moving to an online testing platform like this one, we're also adopting a live proctoring system. So our test invigilator, who used to be in the room, has now been replaced by a live proctoring system, which involves the use of 2 cameras and screen sharing as well. And I'll show you just a couple of minutes on the setup so you get a better idea of how it looks like. It does allow a better protection of test materials because we can see everything that's happening on the screen. The whole test is recorded. So if cheating is happening, this can be easily spotted, and then we know exactly which test material has been impacted, for instance. So it's a lot better in terms of security compared to what we had before. So I'll start by showing you the testing interface, and then I'll show you a couple of minutes of the actual security setup. So just bear with me. I'll share my screen. So I'll share this screen here. And this is how the testing platform looks like once you enter it. So each candidate would get a link and a testing time, and then they can enter that when they're all set up to go. So you've got two sections, A and B. A is the translation section, B the revision section. In a real test format, you'd have 3 texts on the section A. For the demonstration, I only have 1. And then for section B, there's only 1. This is the revision text, which is compulsory. So each section has an information page about the tasks that are to follow. And then when we can click here, or I can use the arrows as well at the bottom to go from one text to another. So this is how a test task is presented. So the task brief is presented in a table format. And then we have a source text, our source text here, and then an editing box here. And I can just type my translation there, and all the test editing functions are available there. The candidate cannot do their test in Word and then paste them back in the interface. Everything has to be done within the testing environment. And so I'll just show you how the revision task works. So it's the same presentation. I'll just move straight to the text. We've got a task brief as well here, and then a source text and a target text to revise. For the purpose of the demonstration, these two are in English, but normally you'd have obviously the 2 languages in either direction, depending on what you've chosen. So just for the purpose of the demonstration, I'll just pick any word to show you how we would identify an error and correct it, but also select an error category. So I'll just click on grown. I can just select plus error, type in a correction, select a category and save. The error will show it highlighted like this. I can check it by clicking on it. I can decide to delete it or just cancel if I'm happy with it. To do this task, candidates are provided with a list of error categories. It used to be provided in a hard copy, now it's provided online. And so we can access it here in a PDF. This document is also available on the website prior to testing in monthly. I mean, it's always on the website, so candidates can actually access it as part of their preparation. When they're happy with the test, they can just click on finish and then click OK, and it's finished. All right. So now I just want to show you a little bit of the video. We've got this video on our website on the translator test section, and it does show you how to set up the video and how to be identified for the test. So I'll move a bit forward so you can see. I just want to show you how the video is set up. So I'll just start it from here, and there we go.
With your webcam, take a profile-sized photo of your face. Next, scan your photo ID. Next, switch your mobile phone or tablet into airplane mode. Then, turn on the Wi-Fi. Open the Proctor app and scan the QR code. The phone screen will go black. That is okay. The mobile stream will appear on the web page. The next phase will be done using the Proctor app on your phone. First, show your keyboard. Click Next. Then, scan your desk. Click Next. Then, scan under the desk and also the ceiling. Click Next. After this, scan the 4 corners of the room. Click Next. As a final check, scan your ears. If you are wearing headphones or earphones, take them off to make sure no other devices are in your ears. Click Next. Lastly, place your mobile camera beside you. It should be at least 3 meters away from you. Be creative with the setup. Make sure it is plugged in. Do not exit the Proctor app or lock your phone. Once done, click Next. Please show your exam materials according to the list on the screen. Finally, ensure you are able to see yourself. You are now ready to start the exam.
That gives you a good overview of how the exam session is set up in terms of security. So I'll just now go back to my presentation. I have a bit more information about this online test. So after our first two testing sessions, that was last year in September, October, we ran a survey among the candidates who had sat the test. So we had 98 respondents. That's about a 90% participation rate. This is the feedback we received. So some of the strengths from the system were the ability to focus, the convenience and flexibility, and also comfort. Lots of people were happy to be able to sit their test in the comfort of their home, felt it was less stressful for them, didn't have to travel to a testing venue, for instance. So that was really a great positive. If we look at it a bit more in detail, 58% agreed the online test experience was better than on-site tests. 70% agreed the online platform allowed for a smooth completion of the translation tasks. 63 agreed it allowed for a smooth completion of the revision task. And we had 80% agreeing that the online platform was suitable for the test type, as well as 77%, strongly agreeing that the instructions and the practice materials were helpful. So it was very encouraging feedback, noting that we had just launched the platform. The first testing round had a few technical issues, which we were able to rectify, and we're still working on some improvements as well. So here you can see what we improved since October, even September. So there were some improvements on the candidate instructions. So for instance, we added more information about what can be used in terms of resources. So MSS Word is not accessible during the test for the simple reason that it has spell check, and the candidates are assessed on their language competency, which includes spelling. So they are not allowed to actually use Microsoft Word. Um, we also gave additional advice regarding equipment requirements, and also we clarified the start time flexibility. That was mainly around some issues we had with time zones, and we also specified toilet breaks. So in the online context, this was a question that came back quite often. And so we do allow one toilet break for 5 minutes during the test. Now, we also looked at having more security around the test. So originally, we allowed only one camera. Now we're allowing the two cameras, like I've just shown you in the video. That helps ensuring there's more security and less chance of cheating. There were some improvements on the test layout and the controls. So that was more interface based. So we removed some pop-ups, we improved the navigation controls, the character selection on the revision task. We moved the chat button, improved some source text layouts. There were a little bit of a gap between the source and the target, so we improved that as well. And finally, we made sure there was greater access to support. So we expanded our in-house support team during test time. We also have a dedicated priority support line, and we've replaced the Proctor system chat by a NAATI chat bar. So all these aim at having a better experience, a more user-friendly experience. And we are still gathering feedback from our candidates. We have been running a much broader survey since 2019, and we've just finalized the analysis of the results. And there were also like suggestions for improvements on the online test and other aspects of what we do. And so this is part of our continuous improvement program. So we're gathering gathering that data and then looking at how we can improve the candidate's experience. So, for instance, what we're looking at doing, that's one example among many, is to add more sample materials to our website in a variety of languages. Now, before I conclude this presentation, I just wanted to briefly touch on interpreting tests, and here I'm only referring to CPI and CI tests. Um, so for interpreting tests, we are working on future innovations. COVID-19 did trigger some innovations for us, just like for CT, we had candidates booked in to sit tests and we had to cancel everything. So we looked at interim solutions, and the solution we adopted last year was to use Microsoft Teams. It was only a temporary solution, and since restrictions have lifted, all tests are now back to a face-to-face environment. However, the experience we had with COVID-19 did trigger some innovation ideas, and we kept looking at different platforms and see how we can learn from our experience, and what we can improve to make interpreting online tests an option for the future. So some learnings from last year were that it was very important to have a stable platform. Microsoft Teams was a temporary solution. It wasn't always stable, so we knew it wouldn't be a long-term option. We also had to face technical issues, especially from the candidate side, with sound not being loud enough, the video not working, having some internet drop off. So there are some factors there that need to be carefully considered if we decide to go to an online live interpreting testing environment. There were considerations around assessment, some due to the technical issues that might have happened during the performance. These can impact the performance, so we gave extra guidance to our examiners to make sure they would take this into account, and that the assessment would be fair. Another thing that we had to take into consideration was the assessment of the interaction management skill. Because in an online environment, the eye contact is not the same. Some body language may be lost along the way, and the candidate might have to be a little bit more forceful to intervene. And this is due to the setting. It's not necessarily the way they would do it normally. So we had to also show some leniency in some of those circumstances. We also realized that for Auslan and deaf interpreting, this was not an option. So we had to stop all our tests and wait for to be able to do a face-to-face testing again, which we did. But we are continuing to explore these options, and at the moment looking at different platforms that could enable us to provide interpreting online tests in the future as an option. This could allow international testing, but also we live in such a big country that we could also accommodate some of our most remote candidates to sit the test without having to travel. So that's why we also keep exploring these options, and we're hoping to have something later in the year. I have mentioned our candidate survey. I thought I'd mention it here as well. In the results that we've gathered, we were able to identify some areas of refinement as well, so we can take that on board for the future as well. Um, just before I conclude, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a taste of how the online interpreting CPI test looked like. As I said, now everything's back face to face, but if we were to do it again in an online setting, this is how it would look like. So basically, the 3 dialogues are done online. There are still 2 face-to-face dialogues, and which are done in a video format, and there is a remote dialogue which is done in an audio format. So this hasn't changed. We used to have a test invigilator in the room. Online, the test invigilator is on the call. They just stop their video during the performance, and we can see our 2 role players and our candidates. So I'll just show you 2 minutes of that video. before concluding.
CPI Italian test, video task A, attendance ID 212347.
So this is our room invigilator here and our candidate there. Now we can see our Italian role player here and our English role player just there.
Hello, interpreter.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Natalie, and I'm going to be speaking today with Ms. Anna Raimondo about her outstanding child support payments.
Okay.
Would you be able to please introduce yourself in Italian to Ms. Raimondo?
Certainly. Buongiorno signora Raimondo, mi chiamo Alessandra e sono la sua interprete.
Buongiorno signora Alessandra.
Okay, go ahead please.
Okay, interpreter, you don't need to interpret this next part. All right, I'd just like you to interpret what we say to each other. If you need us to repeat or clarify something, please just say so. Also, if one of us talks for too long, just ask us to pause so that you can interpret.
Sure.
Okay, let's start. Hello, Anna. Thank you for being so patient. I know you've been waiting a long time.
Oh, buongiorno Anna, riconosco che lei è rimasta in attesa da tanto tempo, grazie per la sua pazienza. Sì.
Buongiorno, grazie a lei. Sono tornata qui perché volevo sapere se ci sono novità sul mio caso.
Oh, good morning. Look, I just want to find out if there's been any news on my case.
Well, at our last appointment, you said you'd received no child support payments from the children's father for almost 2 months now. Have you received any money since then?
Ok, al nostro ultimo appuntamento lei ha detto che non ha ricevuto nessun pagamento dal padre di suo figlio da quasi 2 mesi. Ha ricevuto qualche versamento da recente?
No, purtroppo non ho ricevuto alcun versamento. Non ho più sentito il mio ex marito, e quindi non so neanche dove sia. Al momento sto.
Mi scusi, signor Anna, non ho sentito l'ultima frase. Può ripetere, per favore?
Sì, certo, mi scusi lei. Stavo dicendo che non so dove sia il mio ex marito, sto avendo delle difficoltà economiche, ho delle spese quotidiane, vitto, alloggio, devo comprare una nuova uniforme per la mia figlia più grande, insomma sono quasi al verde e non ho neanche nessun parente, nessun familiare qui a cui rivolgermi.
Okay. Look, I haven't received anything at all. I haven't even had any contact.
I'll just stop here so you get a bit of an idea of how the test is run. And so once we have like a more stable platform, we'd be looking at a similar type of test delivery here. So just as a conclusion, I just wanted to mention that as for everyone, 2020 was a very challenging year for NAATI. It has pushed us into being more resilient as a business and as a testing body. This has accelerated our leap into technological change, and we had to do that internally, but obviously externally with our test delivery, and we've been successful at it. So now, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, NAATI is working towards refining its system, but also the test delivery as it stands now. And we are still looking at making some improvements on the CT testing delivery based on the feedback we have received. And likewise, we are exploring options to be able to offer online video interpreting in the future as an option for testing. And this is the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching it.